Welcome back to the Cash Flow Project. If you're listening for the first time or watching us for the first time, welcome. Our goal here at the Cash Flow Project is to empower the next generation of entrepreneurs. We sit down and talk to local businesses in the northern Colorado area to get insight on how they worked from the ground up and try to educate ourselves on how we too can be entrepreneurs. Today we have the opportunity to speak with the entrepreneur and owner of Mom's Popcorn, Rebecca Victor.
Woo!
Yeah.
Hi there.
Rebecca, thank you so much for joining us today. Could you begin by telling us a bit about yourself?
So my name is Rebecca Victor. I grew up in a little farming community in Lindsay, Nebraska.
Oh.
Some people might know Lindsay, Nebraska they are the manufacturer of the irrigation system called Zimatic. So any of these farmers out here might know Zimatic irrigation system. Excuse me. That was manufactured in my little town of 300 people that I grew up in. Little tiny farm. Yeah. I grew up with 14 siblings.
What?
Sorry. It's okay. I have a dozen sisters and I have 2 brothers.
Aww.
So there was 15 of us children, grew up on a tiny little farm. And that's where kind of the popcorn part starts, because we did grow popcorn on the farm.
Mm-hmm.
Little Catholic school in Lindsay. I went to K through 12 in this little Catholic school, and greatest upbringing I could have ever asked for. Farm life is good life.
Mm-hmm.
And then I moved on to college. I went to college of hair design. I was a barber and a cosmetologist for many years.
Whoa.
So I dabbled in that, and then met my husband, of course, when I was a senior in high school, and I've been with him since. My first and only love.
Wow. That's so sweet.
Yeah, it was very sweet. And we have 1 son together, and I have 3 stepchildren, which also have produced 10 grandchildren for us, too.
Wow.
Yeah. Then we moved to Lincoln, Nebraska, and hung out there for a while, and then we moved to Fremont, Nebraska, and I lived there for 30 years, dabbling in a ton of different stuff. I used to sew clothes.
Mm-hmm.
I used to bind books. I used to cut hair. I've worked restaurants and gas stations, and I have tried about everything. I just wanted to make sure I was well-rounded.
Yep.
And then it came to popcorn. It was that started in Fremont, Nebraska for us, and started in 2012. And it was it's been a while. I've been at it almost 13 years now.
Wow.
In April, it'll be 13 years.
Yeah. Are you gonna do something big at your business?
We just celebrated 5 years in Greeley. So I did actually. In July of 24, I did close my Nebraska store finally.
Oh.
Yeah, I had to. It was it's 8.5 hours from here to go back to that store, and the gal running my store in Nebraska, she wanted to move to Colorado, so. And she needed to move to Colorado for health issues and stuff like that. So we decided to close the store, and she moved here and is now helping me run my store here in Greeley.
Okay.
So yeah, it was it was a smart move, and we're very glad we did it. But that's where Fremont was our home for 30 years, and that's where we started on this journey of popcorn.
From the very ground up.
No kidding. It really was. It really was a labor of love, and I was passionate about it, and it worked out.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm just a small little country gal, and moved to this big old city of Greeley, and wow, what an amazing place to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. And so, what would you say inspired for you to start the business?
So I had started making popcorn at home. I've always loved popcorn. Like I said, we grew it on the farm, and it was something. Having so many kids, it was a cheap thing to make in the evening for all of us kids. So my dad would, go and get it out of the field, and we would hand shuck it off the cobs, and we would pop it every night. And so I always loved it, but we were only allowed to have like salt and butter. So I was like, one day I'm gonna make something. And so I started making popcorn in my late 20s, early 30s. My husband was National Guard.
Ooh.
And I always said, I'm going to try all these flavors. And I would send them to the National Guard
Right.
and have the guys try them all the time. And
Aw.
it got to the point where he would come home and be like, they ate that popcorn so fast. And they kept saying, you need to open up a business. You need to open up a business. And I was like, yeah, well, I had just gone back to college to be a transcriber in the medical field. And I was like, not pop. I don't know if I want to open up a store. Well, we had this thing about always going to auctions on the weekend. And this was like 3 days after he had told me we should open the store. And we go to this auction, and the very first thing we see as we walk through the door is a popcorn machine.
Ooh.
And he kind of nudged me, and he's like, I told you. And I was like, oh, okay. So we bid on it, and we got it.
Wow.
So I take this popcorn machine home, and I cleaned my garage really well because it was too big for my house. And I'm in my garage popping popcorn, and the whole neighborhood smelled like popcorn. It was kind of funny. So I just started making more, and I kept, and my husband was full-time National Guard at this time. After 9/11, he had went full-time. And so I kept sending more flavors that I kept trying. And so we get this machine on that Saturday, and then on that Sunday, I was just taking a drive through the town that I grew up in, and I go down this street that I had never seen, never had been down, lived there 30 years. And there was this little building, and it was for rent. And I thought, are you kidding me? So I got out of the car, and I went, and I was looking through the windows and stuff, and I was like, I think I could make a shop out of this. So I went home and got my husband, and we went back, we looked at it, and I went ahead and rented it. And 3 weeks later, we were in business.
Wow.
3 weeks.
3
Wow.
weeks. I built a wall. I got a machine. I had the machine. I started with one machine
Hmm.
in this tiny little building with
Wow.
11 flavors. And we opened
Whoa.
it up, and we started it like that.
I
And
love that.
It was so small scale, but it's what we could do because I didn't take a loan out for anything. We just did what we could do financially.
Mhm.
So, like, starting ground up, it was no lie. I mean, a couple $100, and my dad helped me build a wall, and he put a little money into to help us get a few bowls and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, it took us 3 weeks to create that, get the health department in to clear us, and
Dang.
we were off and running.
That
That
was
was
Wow.
so
a really
impressive.
quick turnaround.
It was huge, but I was, I quit college. I said, oh, I got to quit college because I wasn't done yet.
Mhm.
And so I stepped
Oh.
away from college, and I was halfway through my degree to do transcribing, and I said, okay, well, we're going to open up a business now. I quit college and opened up this shop.
Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's so cool.
Yeah.
I love hearing the story.
Mm-hmm. That's so cool.
How did you feel any doubt at any point, like
scared to death.
leaving
Yeah.
leaving college and then just doing the shop?
Yeah, I was terrified
Yeah.
because you don't know, is it going to work? But like my husband and I said, let's jump in feet first, and if it doesn't, I mean, he was still working full time with the National Guard, and I said, okay, let's jump in, let's just do this, because it was really his idea, and he's like, open up a shop, it'll be fun. I use that against him all the time now, just for that line right there. Because there's days where you're like, is it really that fun? When you're tired. But yeah, it was scary to think I'm going to leave college. I had already taken on all this financial aid and everything.
Yeah.
But, if it's something we wanted to do, I wanted to see what it'd be like to be my own boss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sadly, like the week before we opened, my husband was medically retired out of the National Guard. He had had enough injuries and stuff, and they said he wasn't, able to continue with the National Guard, so they medically discharged him. And he actually came in. Him and I worked side by side for many years. He actually retired at the perfect time, so we opened up this shop, and the two of us got to work together for
Wow.
years.
Yeah.
Yeah, to build it
Wow.
and grow it. And
It's like perfect timing.
it could not have happened at any perfect time, because he could still be in the shop, and maybe if he couldn't stand for too long, or you're working for your wife. I'll let you sit down. Yeah, so that worked out really good for us. But yeah, no doubt, it's scary.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's still scary 13 years later. I worry every day I open my doors. Is it good enough? Is it going to make it? I mean, that's if you ask a lot of owners of businesses, it's terrifying.
Yeah.
Anything can change and it could be over. So
That's true.
Yeah.
I put your heart into it every day. Yeah, for sure.
I think also going into your store is just so welcoming too.
Thank you.
It's just like you are my mom. You're my.
You're so sweet.
So actually, speaking of that, did you enjoy the designing process for your store?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. To bring in, well, my son and my husband, of course, helped me. My son, he's a woodworker, but he also learned that from me because I used to build furniture, and I've dabbled in a lot of things. So I used to build like end tables and stuff like that. So I kind of had a basics of woodworking, and then my son learned that, and he's extremely handy. So we go into and now. This is my second location in Greeley. I had another location just like 5 doors down.
Really?
It was only like 900 square feet. And then my landlord offered me the corner lot, and now I'm at 2,500 square feet. So
Wow.
I did my first 2 years in 900 square feet. That was very, very hard.
Yeah.
It was just not enough room.
When was that?
We opened up January of 2020. And
Whoa.
Yeah. Yeah. I know what you're thinking. Right before COVID.
Yeah.
And then we moved to the new location in July of 22. So, and to design those was kind of fun. My son has got a good eye for that and trying to use the space wisely. Because if you've been in my shop, it's all windows.
Yeah.
So trying to figure out where you're going to put stuff freestanding in the store is kind of hard, but I think we work it out pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we love all the woodsy looking in there, because that just reminds me of Colorado.
Yeah.
Because my store in Nebraska was all white.
Oh.
All white.
Ooh.
And so this one is all wood. So total turn.
Yeah.
So actually, question.
Yeah.
Everything around your area is all like popcorn, and so there's this one area that has a bunch of other snacks. Do you think that you would make something like that too, like the cotton candy or like those tiny cookies or anything? Do you think you're going to add more food to your place?
We run that through my head all the time. Me and the gal that I work that came from Nebraska that works with me, Heather is her name. We love to bake.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's really hard for me some days where it's like, I could open up a bakery. I could do, bars and cookies and, because I already do candy chews. I do cotton candy.
Mm-hmm.
We do homemade marshmallows now. She just started in with the decorated cookies. We've toyed around with the idea of other cookies, like chocolate chip, sugar cookie, those kind of things. But I don't want to overwhelm her because that's what she used to do in Nebraska. She was a cookie gal.
Ooh.
So we shared our store, half popcorn, half cookies. And then she would fill in and do the popcorn for me after I left. So she did both while I was gone. And so we toy with the idea of maybe doing that. My brain always says, what can I add? What can I do to keep it? You got to keep people coming. Like, oh, now she does
Keep it
this.
interesting.
Now she does this, So, I mean, we think about it. And it could happen. And, I'm going to fly by the seat of my pants kind of gal. So one day I'll be in the kitchen and be like, you know what, we're going to just do this. Let's just do this.
Yeah.
So as long as I can find the space to put it, that's the big thing I'm going to run with is I can't make the space any bigger now. I mean, I put up a giant wall. So I don't want to have to back that up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you just have to wait and see.
Yeah.
Things could happen.
You never know.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
And so with your role at Mom's Popcorn, what is it exactly that you do? Are you involved in like the making process? Has it been hard? Like, have you hired other people to help with that? I know for some business owners, it's hard to kind of take a step back. So
And delegate.
how has that been for you?
I have a very hard time taking a step back. I've always been hands-on. I am the first to arrive at that shop every day. I usually am there by 5. During holiday seasons, I was going in at 2.
What?
I was working
Whoa.
like from 2 to 6 every day, like over in the whole month of December. Right now, I try not to get there before 5.
Yeah.
I don't really need to. It's just if I roll over and I can't sleep, I should just be at work kind of attitude.
Mm.
I'm trying to step back because I had somebody tell me that letting go is my hardest problem, and that if I could, I would be a better boss. And I was like, oh. So I'm trying not to micromanage.
Yeah.
Everybody at the shop is extremely capable of making it. I have 1 full-timer and I have 3 part-timers.
Oh, okay.
Ooh.
So, and they all do a great job. They all have, some things that they're better at than others. But I, like right now, I've walked away and it's fine. They're taking care of it. But if anybody else would ask me, like, or if you asked any of my employees, if I'm a hands-on person, they'll roll their eyes at you and say, "Oh my Lord, she never leaves." Because I'll put 60 hours in a week. That's not a problem.
Yeah, and I mean it's your business, like your baby, right?
It
It's like-
is. I was empty nested. The year we opened, my son had graduated. So I started this empty nested. And it was a good distraction because I lost my only one. Yeah, he left me. And so it is my baby. And you could ask me, anybody can walk in and be like, how do you make that? I mean, I can rattle these recipes off. I don't have to have them written. I make 120 popcorns and I know them from front to back. I could be tired and I'll never forget. I make them so much that it's hard for me to let that go.
Yeah.
But it's quality. I want quality.
We can all tell that you're really passionate about your business.
Oh,
Very.
I think that's what brings a business to be, is how much effort you're willing to put into it.
Yeah, and I've talked to tons of other people who own businesses. We all feel the same. We love what we do. We wouldn't be doing it otherwise. But America's grown on small businesses. This is what we do.
Yeah.
We help keep communities together because it gives all these extra special little things within a community. Like I can go to a lot of other towns. There's not a lot of popcorn shops, but it's a fun little place when people are coming through, like tourists. I love the tourist season because we get, it's a fun little place to stop in and let's just snack. Come on, let's just eat popcorn.
I mean, this is one of the first stores I ever went to in Greeley.
I love that.
Yeah.
Really?
I love that.
Because the day I stepped onto campus was the day that I moved here. And so, like, the first week, I was just like,
Where'd you move from?
I moved from Walsenburg, Colorado.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, just to go to college here?
Yeah.
That's awesome. I love that. Colorado's great.
Yeah.
How or what advice would you give to someone looking to start their small food business?
First of all, I always say, like, do a little bit of research. I mean, okay, so in Nebraska, the research wasn't real heavy because Nebraska laws were a lot different than Colorado. But now that I've been in Colorado, I mean, it's something I wish I would have known before I got here. Make sure you know codes to, kitchens have to be set up a certain way. They have to, pass inspections and stuff like that. So be sure, some of that stuff.
What would you say is where you can find resources for that stuff?
The Department of Health. Those are the people that are going to come in and do your inspections. And they answered tons of questions for me. I would call them and they'd say, well, you have to have wipeable walls and you have to have a 3-compartment sink and you have to have a mop sink. And so there's, guidelines to that.
Yeah.
And they answered all my questions.
Nice.
I did. The other thing I would say is, if you need a small business loan to get started, I did get a loan when I moved to Colorado for this part because the build out was huge. And I did that through the Colorado Enterprise Fund off UNC campus. I met with people in a basement in one of the buildings. I don't know what building it is, but it was the Colorado Enterprise Fund, and I did all of that on the campus. And somebody had said, check out the campus. And I can't come up with their names now right offhand. I just know it was the Enterprise Fund and that it was through a program free through UNC. And they helped me get my loan, my first loan, business loan in Colorado.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, because we came here, it was scary. I was like, oh my gosh, this is such a big city.
Mhm.
Because my city was only 25,000 people.
Yeah.
Dude, my
Yeah.
sorry,
You're
that's
good.
not even the city, but like Walsenburg is like has a population of 3,000.
Oh, see, that's my
Yeah.
kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I like those little tiny communities like that. I mean, I grew up in a town of 300. I mean, I
Mhm.
love it. I love it. But yeah, to just, the research is, I mean, if you do the research, the answers are out there. You just have to, and if you don't know it, ask one person. Like if I need it, the health department, let me know. Don't forget you have to, make sure you have a sales tax license. So then I talk to them and then they're like, well, don't forget you have to do this. And they led me down the right path.
Mm.
And it was pretty easy. I was like, okay, that's pretty easy.
Wow.
If I would not have, thank God there's internet. When I grew up, there was no internet.
Yeah,
So now
yeah.
I'm like, oh, thank God for the internet. But yeah, the answers are out there. You just
Right.
don't be afraid to ask anybody.
Mhm.
Somebody always has the answer. So yeah, I that part was the greatest. And then I asked my neighbors too, on the block. I asked them a lot of questions too. I'm like, what do I do? And they're like, well, this is where you go. And this is, they told me where I can go get restaurant equipment. I would have never known that in college. I was like, where do I go to get sinks? And they guided me through everything. So don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. It is scary, but don't be afraid really, because it happens how it's supposed to.
Yeah.
It really does.
You're right about that.
Yeah.
Perfect timing.
Yeah, it is. Timing is everything. And it's like, oh, okay. Well, that's not so bad.
Mhm.
And then opening day comes.
Exciting.
It is
No, yeah, thanks
exciting.
for sharing that. That's very
Yeah,
encouraging because
yeah.
I think, it's thinking about starting a business is scary, but
Yeah.
it's great to know there's resources out there and
Tons of resources.
just ask people.
Yeah, yeah, and I still to this day, even 5 years in, I talk to all my neighbors on my street all the time, and is there anything you're doing differently? What are we doing? Is there anything I need to know? Is there any rules changing? Department of Health will come in and do your inspections, and they'll let you know if there's any changes. I had to change a label one time, and I'm like, oh, and they're like, whenever you get it, I'll be inspecting you again in a year. Just make sure it's done within that year.
Mhm.
So they just kind of keep you on your toes too. And, they usually inspect once every year, or some people are every 6 months, but mine's once a year. And if there's changes, they let you know. And they don't, no panicking about it. I was like, oh, okay, I'll fix it.
Mhm.
It's just that easy. I'll fix it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, I don't know, it's how I perceive tests sometimes,
Yeah.
where it's just like, this isn't really telling you that you're dumb. It's telling you where you need to improve
Yes.
and what you can work on to get to the level that you want to be.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So that's a good way to look at it.
I have a question though. Why did you choose to move to Colorado from Nebraska, and why Greeley specifically?
So, Colorado, so as a child, my dad brought us to Colorado like 5 or 6 times. And I can remember as a child saying, I've always wanted to move to Colorado. Where in
Really?
Colorado, I don't know. But, we had been up to Rocky Mountain. I'd been to Pikes Peak. We've been all over Colorado. We went to some ranch one time as children. And I always said, I'm going to come back to Colorado one day. So then, you get to, I'm in this little town, Fremont, Nebraska. And I thought, oh, I'm stuck here forever. How am I going to get to Colorado?
Mhm.
Well, then my son graduates college, and he comes out here to be with one of his best friends that had moved out here for a job. And so he's like, Mom, I'm going to go to Colorado. I'm like, so cool. I was kind of jealous. I'm like, you're going to Colorado and I'm not.
Aw.
And so he comes out here and he landed in Greeley.
Mm.
And started working here in Greeley. He was a graphic designer and found a job in Greeley. So we started visiting. And the more we would visit, and we would go to towns around, we had been to Loveland and Fort Collins and Windsor and all these other little towns around Greeley, and just visiting and, like doing touristy stuff, going to the shops. And we were noticing that there was no popcorn shops.
Mhm.
And I was one of the, okay, I love my son. Oh my Lord. And I was just missing him so terribly. And it was just like all kind of feeling like could we maybe do this?
Mm-hmm.
And so we would go home, and I always tell my husband, I was like, you want to move to Colorado? And he wasn't real keen on moving,
Mm-hmm.
at first. And then I said, this is silly. I'm calling him 10 times a day.
Mm-hmm.
I miss him so bad. And I said, and
Mhm.
Colorado is such a neat place, and there's so many opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
And so we came to visit in 2018, and we said we were going to go check out some places and just start looking. And we went over to Fort Collins. There was a popcorn shop in Fort Collins at the time. I said, let's go see what that's all about.
Mm-hmm.
The day we walked in there, they were closing for good.
Oh,
They were
what?
closing their store. And that was the most local popcorn shop except for Denver. And we got in the car and we bought a bunch of popcorn and we were eating, and I'm like, it wasn't my favorite thing. It's just the type of kernels they use. And we were driving back to Greeley to go see my son again. And that's when my conversation with my husband was like, you know what? There's nothing here. Why do we not do this? So we started to really look at places. And how I landed this building was the strangest thing. But we finally see the first spot I was in, the 900 square feet, and we see this spot, and I talked to the landlord and everything, and we said, let's put a payment down on it. And we went back to Nebraska, and now I was in the search of who's going to run my store because I'm leaving.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when my friend who was doing cookies in the building with me, I started
Nice.
having a good conversation with her, saying, she had been with me for years watching me make popcorn.
Mhm.
And I said, you know what you're doing, and I could pay you to do this, and it'd be extra income for her and everything. And she agreed to it. And in 2019, we started building out the building, and we just ripped it off like a Band-Aid. Another one of those things where it was like, we should go. And Heather's like, well, when are you going to go? And I'm like, well, we're leaving in 2 weeks. I mean, it was just, we were just like,
Wow.
we were waiting on this loan.
Uh,
And my landlord makes a comment to me. She messages me and she says, if you are always waiting for the right time, there'll never be a right time. Sometimes you need to just jump in
Yep.
feet first. And that's what I did on my first shop in
Mhm.
Nebraska. And I looked at my husband and I said, we got to go.
Mhm.
And he's like, yeah, we got to go. And I mean, seriously, 2 weeks later, we were gone. I had somebody running the shop. We got here. We moved in with my son for a little bit in a trailer in the yard because he lived on a farm. And every weekend we were building out and trying to do it when people weren't at work. And we just started building out this place, and
Mhm.
it worked.
Wow.
Yeah. Again, one of those, not a plan. Really not a plan.
Yeah.
And then about 2 weeks before we opened, the loan had gone through. So we were
Oh,
able
yeah.
to get all the equipment, and thank God. I was like, how am I going to afford this? I don't have no loan.
Right.
And it went through just in time. And her advice was great. So we went on her advice and just did it.
yeah.
Nice.
Again, it can happen. So just do it. If you have a passion to do it, just do it.
Right. So if you had the opportunity to move to a different country and open Mom's Popcorn, where would you take it?
I would probably. So I actually have a couple customers from Australia.
Ooh.
When they come to visit, they love to come over and eat the popcorn.
Really?
It would be so cool to be like, let's go to Australia.
Yeah.
And I think that would be the place, just because I don't know I don't know anybody else from any other countries that have had it but Australia.
Yeah.
So
That's
I mean,
so cool.
aside from Iraq, I mean, I used to send it to Iraq and stuff like
Oh.
that. But
Mhm.
those were our American soldiers that I was
Right.
sending it to.
Yeah.
So it wasn't actually Iraqis. But no, these are Australians, and they loved it. And they're all, I tried to ship it to them, but their customs was too hard to get the popcorn through customs.
Right. Yeah.
So now they have to wait till they come here to
Aw,
visit to get it.
yeah.
So maybe I go open one there and do that with them. That would be pretty cool.
That would be so cool.
It'd be a neat
Wow.
place.
And how do you get people to try your popcorn for the first time? Like how do you go about marketing for it?
So really, once you walk in that door, and I don't know, and hopefully this has worked out if you guys have been in the store.
Mhm.
Usually when people walk in, of course it's a greeting, and then I usually ask them if they were looking for a certain flavor. A lot of them are pretty overwhelmed. And they're like, I didn't know you could
Yeah.
make this many kinds of popcorn. And then that's when I usually tell, whether it's me or my staff, and that's when you say, well, if you're curious about a flavor, because we do have a lot of unique flavors, we offer free sampling. And then they're like, no way. And I try to, I want you to know that you can try as many as you want. There's really no limit. And some people are always like, oh, I tried one. I'm like, yeah, but you got to try like 3, 4, 5, 6 to really know what you like.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to compare them. So when we can get them comfortable and we start handing them, sometimes I'm like, hey, you should try this. I don't even wait for them to say flavors sometimes.
Yes, that's
And
how
I'm like,
you got me.
Yeah, so sometimes I'm just like, this is one of my favorites. You should try this, as long as, we always check our allergens and stuff like that. And sometimes it's that, just saying, you should try this.
Right.
And just handing them a cup, and they're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's all it takes to get you stuck.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So how do you come up with all these new flavors?
I never go to bed.
2 a.m. in the morning.
Oh, yeah. It does keep me awake. But so I won't lie, I have gone through like a chip aisle and be like, what is the trending chips now? What is going on here?
Yeah.
So, I'll maybe grab a bag of chips and say, let's see if I can duplicate that flavor. And I have a palate where I can usually dissect flavors in most anything I eat.
Wow.
And I can say, oh, that's got garlic. It's got turmeric.
You're a
and
super
that-
taster.
Yeah.
And it's like, ooh, I can taste all this. And so sometimes I'll make something and be like, it's missing something. It's
wow.
missing one thing. Flaming Cheetos took me 2 years.
Yeah. Guys,
And one day,
go try it.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
really good. I actually got it. It's so good.
and one day it was just a light bulb. I'm like, I think I know what it's missing.
Mm-hmm.
And I tried it. And I'm like, that was it.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Took me 2 years to figure that out. But I have a family that's in culinary arts. So if I ever have a question about flavors, I can say, hey, I got a flavor. I'm going to send it to you. It's missing something. What is it I should do with this? And they will sometimes, fill that in for me and say, you should add a little of this.
Oh, awesome.
So, and that's where it starts. Some people bring me ideas. And when I had a kid just recently, I did a class with some homeschool kids. And the little boy says to me, he's like, they were asking questions. And I said, he goes, would you want to try a new flavor? And I said, well, what you got? And he's like, I'd like Sprite. I want one that tastes like Sprite. And I was like, okay. I said, well, if I ever figure it out, but my brain started going in, and I was like, oh, could I do this?
Yeah.
I have a Sprite flavor now. I can't call it Sprite, of course. It's lemon lime.
Yeah.
But I did it, and then I called the teacher, and I said, hey, make sure you tell that kid that I created the flavor he wanted.
Aw.
So they can come in and
Yeah.
And I'm going to do another class with them in the fall, so I'll make sure that he knows.
so
But
cool.
yeah, people bring me ideas all the time, and I'll be like, well, let me see what I can do. Let me see what I
I
can do.
love that.
Yeah.
What's your favorite popcorn?
My all-time favorite, Mom's Steakhouse. Those are
Oh.
my flavors. I love steak.
Mm.
I like to season steak, and so I created that, knowing that was going to be my all-time favorite, and it is.
Nice.
And then if I don't have it with me today, but I love spicy, so I have one called Hot Cheese that I really like, and now the Flamin' Cheeto one, of course. And my favorite sweet one is key lime.
Oh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, I got a key lime one that's really good. It's not too sweet, and that's what I like because I don't like a lot of sugar. So the key lime is just enough.
Right.
How many flavors are there?
There's 120.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I only carried like 46 in the store at one time.
Okay.
Oh.
'Cause
Is
I-
it seasonal?
Yeah, there's some seasonal ones, and then there's sometimes where just a month down the road or 2 months, I'll be like, okay, let's switch out 10 and just get 10 different ones. In the course of a year, all flavors will have made the shelf at one point in time.
Yeah.
So
Do
we
you
just-
also offer selling online as
Yeah.
well? Okay.
Yeah, but online, I do only sell what's in the store at the same time
Mm-hmm.
because it's just how that works. But yeah, I have it online. And I do quite a bit of orders. All my Nebraska people are still ordering from me, so that's nice. I was able
That's very
to
sweet. Yeah.
talk them into
Yeah.
it and be like, "Come on!" I gave them some free shipping for a year, and I said, "You stay with me, okay, you guys?" And they do. They
that's
they
good.
really
Yeah.
have stayed. So
They're
it's been
really
great.
loyal to you.
Yeah, they
That's so
are.
sweet.
Yeah.
That's so sweet.
I mean,
Makes
I'm
me homesick.
intrigued. So many flavors: watermelon, caramel apple, dill pickle, the raspberry white.
My
chocolate, and then Mom's
Cracked corn.
cracked corn.
Yeah,
Yummy.
that's based on a dip that I tried one time.
Oh.
Wow.
And
One time?
I tried it one time and I was like, that dip is good. I'm like, I'm going to make a popcorn out of that. And I did.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love how your like mindset is just like, ooh, this is good. Let me remake it.
Well, yeah. And that's, otherwise, 11 flavors to 120. I had to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And the chip aisle,
Yeah.
and I've done it after almond. I've tried some almonds and I like the flavor, so I did that. And
Yeah.
yeah.
That is so impressive. 11 to like 100.
I know.
How many? 47?
120.
120.
And I got
okay.
two brand new ones out now. That's on a United Way fundraiser, and I got 2 brand new ones that I'm working on. Actually, I got them figured out already. I just haven't brought them onto the shelf yet.
I can't
We're
wait to
excited
try
to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
favorite
sneak
is your pudding, your
Banana pudding
That
one.
Oh,
Ain't
that's
that
You guys
good?
go try that one.
It's got little cookies in it.
so
Oh.
good. It like melts
Yeah.
in my mouth.
Yeah.
Mm.
And if you like
Ooh.
peanut butter, the puppy chow is really good.
Mhm.
Chocolate peanut butter
Yeah.
dusted with powdered sugar. It's quite delicious.
Yeah.
I'll have to look into that.
We'll take a
I like
trip as a
popcorn.
club.
Yeah.
Yes,
We're
you
gonna
should.
get everyone to come.
Yes, it's team building.
Yes.
Team building.
You can build your team.
Yeah, for sure. Now, when you're in the shop, remember it has no calories until you take it home. So, it's not my fault.
Yeah, you said that these are how many servings?
It's one serving.
Yeah,
These
it's one
little
serving.
bags is
Oh.
one actual serving. It's 3 cups. So according to health department, the serving size is 3
Mhm.
cups.
So I could eat one of these and not feel bad about it.
Exactly. Exactly. I'm going to eat 2 and still not feel bad because it's popcorn. It's good for you.
Yeah, exactly. Like, popcorn is a healthy snack, guys. It's corn.
Yes, exactly. That's how I look at it.
I find it fascinating that popcorn is like an actual specific species of corn.
I know it is, and it's you got
It's
field
fascinating.
corn and sweet corn and popcorn. It's
Mm.
don't mistake in them and try and pop field corn. It's
Yeah.
not very good.
And
Starts
speak-
burning.
And speaking of, we do have a little fun trivia to kind of see your popcorn knowledge.
Oh gosh! I thought you know.
You want to say a little? Yeah. Woo!
Popcorn trivia.
Let's see if I know anything.
All right.
That's
That was fun. So, first question. At what temperature does popcorn typically pop? Is it A, 212 degrees, B, 275 degrees, C, 356 degrees, or D, 400 degrees?
And these
So-
are all Fahrenheit.
Yeah, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm just going to fly by the seat of my pants because it pops when it just pops. I don't take the temperature.
That makes sense.
I
Yeah.
seriously, I put oil in the pot. I put 1 kernel, and when that 1 kernel pops, but I think it's B.
The
275?
275?
And what is it?
It is 400.
Holy smokes!
Yeah.
That's why it hurts so much when it hits me.
Oh my god, that's too funny.
Yeah, very hot.
Somebody told me before I came here, they're like, "Have you ever checked up on your popcorn trivia?" They asked me if I knew all these things. I said, "No."
Yeah.
And here I walk in here, and you're gonna try me now. All right, try another
All right.
one.
Next one. Which U.S. state produces the most popcorn? Is it A, Nebraska, B, Iowa, C, Indiana, or D, Illinois?
I think it's Indiana, but I'd like to say it's Nebraska.
You are correct.
Yeah.
It is Nebraska.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is
It is
Nebraska.
Nebraska.
Okay,
Yeah, it
'Cause that's where I'm from.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It produces 25% of all
25%
U.S.
of it.
popcorn.
And then Iowa, I think Iowa is a pretty big producer, though,
I
too.
think so too, yeah.
Yeah, and that's
Mhm.
because they have irrigation and the humidity in those areas is really good for popcorn. So
The climate.
Yes.
it is climate.
All right, we have 2 more. So the
Okay.
next one is which country consumes the most popcorn per capita? Is it A, China, B, the United States, C, Brazil, or D, Canada?
Well, I think it's United States.
Yes,
We
correct.
We eat way too much popcorn. No.
Yeah, so Americans eat around 15 billion quarts of popcorn per year.
Wow.
That's crazy.
That's a lot. I
Yeah.
hope they think y'all getting it for me.
Right, yes. Yeah, I mean, and it's like the staple snack for,
It is.
movies and
Mhm.
anything. Yeah.
Every
Yeah.
time I go to like events and stuff, there's
Mhm.
popcorn everywhere I
Always.
go.
Yes.
Like we were at what's called one of my club events. There, it's always popcorn.
Mhm.
If you have like a big thing going on, just like, hey, here's some popcorn. And some people like, it was an SGA thing, but student government, and we were setting up in the one of the buildings, and people were going by and they saw a popcorn machine, and that was the only reason they came over. It's just like, I saw a whole popcorn machine. What's going on here?
I mean, seriously, when I roll mine out during like Friday Fest, people flock to the machine.
Oh,
It's such a good smell too.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
no,
it
it
smells
is.
so good.
It's so American smelling.
Truly. And then the last question is, how much did the world's largest popcorn ball weigh? Is it A, 500 pounds, B, 1,200 pounds, C, 5,000, or D, 9,370?
I'm going to go with C, but I didn't know there was a big giant popcorn
Right?
ball. I knew there was a foil ball,
Oh.
but I didn't know there was a popcorn
There's
ball.
a popcorn ball.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Which one?
So it is actually D, 9,370 pounds.
I
Yeah.
can't even imagine.
And this was made in 2013 in Indiana. It was over 8 feet tall.
Look,
It's crazy.
I'm going to have to try and wowza. I can beat that. We should try. Oh, sorry, guys. I was like, where's that coming from? Just ignore that. Everybody's like, what is that?
I was like checking my phone. Like,
That's my husband.
Yeah, it's huge.
That is giant.
It's huge.
Gosh.
Have you thought about selling popcorn balls?
I don't sell them in. I sell them in ball form for certain holidays.
Got it.
Otherwise, I do them in squares, just because it's easier on my hand to just slice them versus trying to form them all the time.
That makes sense.
And when you make it, sometimes I make 6 batches at a time, and that's just a lot.
Yeah.
So we now pat them into pans and slice them.
Slice them. That
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you for participating in our fun
Oh
trivia.
yes, no problem. I'm gonna go home and have to like brush up on that just for just to
fun
know.
questions,
yeah, just in
Yeah.
case. You never know if a kid is going to come asking you, like, what's the biggest popcorn ball?
What if somebody
I
saw
know.
this or heard this now and they're gonna come in and they're gonna try me again? And I'll be like, no, I'm not falling for it this time.
Yeah.
so this will be our final question.
Yes.
Is there anything that you would like to shout out for people to go check out, like your social media or your web page, if you have a website, or any events that's going on in the future?
Well, yeah, I do have a Facebook page, so it's being an old lady, I always have to look it up. I do have a Facebook page.
We will be able to attach it to the YouTube file.
Would you too?
as
Because
well.
I'm always I never know what the page.
Yeah.
How you even find that information? So I have one. It's Mom's Popcorn, Colorado.
Okay.
Alright.
And
Nice.
then what you call it? But I do have one thing going on right now for me until the end of March is I'm doing a big fundraiser for United Way, and I have an entire shelf that's dedicated just to United Way, and there's a total of 6 flavors of popcorn and cookies on there. And 50% of all those sales goes back to United Way. So it's my big fundraiser for the year. And United Way does so much for our community. So that's huge. Saturday, of course, we have Blarney on the Block. That's always a fun event. If you're into that St. Patty's Day stuff, there's a little parade and there's green beers. And
Is it tomorrow?
it's tomorrow. It is tomorrow.
Ooh, actually,
Yeah.
my family's coming up tomorrow.
Yeah.
Do you know what when it's?
1 to 6. It's from 1 to 6.
Oh.
And then they have like the Irish dancers, and they'll have
Wait.
and they'll have the bagpipes, and they have a little tiny parade, and it's not a huge parade. It's only like 2 blocks long, but they bring the Irish setters in,
Yeah.
and the dogs. The Irish setters are there, and they have a few little things that go through. But it's a cute little
Is it
gathering.
downtown?
It's
Where?
on 9th Street, right in front of our store.
Wow,
Yeah. 9th
Street.
Street between me and the Rio on 9th Street. That they close that street down,
Wow.
and they do all their partying in there.
That's so cool.
But yeah, I would say, if you can, I do have a website, momspopcorncolorado.com. But coming down to the store anytime, we offer free samplings every day. So if you're ever just curious, we don't hold you to purchasing anything. Just come and try it. We'd love to get you hooked. And I take a lot of pride in all the flavors that we have worked so hard to make. To try and make popcorn fun. And our slogan is, it's the anytime, any place snack food.
It is.
And I mean, you got events coming up or anything like that, give us a call, and we'd love to put something together. We can do special colors. We do wedding colors and everything for weddings and such. Yeah, and we have so much fun doing that. And we have Friday Fest coming up pretty soon here with summer coming. So we encourage people to come downtown and hang out with us for Friday Fest and listen to free music and stuff like that. So
That'd be so cool.
yeah, I just I do appreciate you guys having me here today.
Oh, we appreciate you.
Yeah.
Let's conclude the conclusion.
You're sweet.
Thank you so much for your time today. We really enjoyed this conversation. And for all of our listeners out there, stay tuned. Thank you for listening. And Rebecca, thank you again for your time today. We'll see you next time on the Cash Flow Project.